There are many things that we deal with after losing our sight, and fear is definitely one of them. But sometimes fear can become so overwhelming that it shuts down our lives. And that's what we want to talk about today. What's up, VIPs? Derek here, back with another video, and today I thought we'd have a conversation about fear. Now, let me go ahead and say up front at this video, we are going to talk about fear and a medical diagnosis of what fear can lead to. And so let this video be a cue for you. Let this video kind of be something that make you think, not to diagnose you with anything. So always seek professional help anytime you are thinking something's going on with you, especially mentally, emotionally, physically, something like that. That being said, and that disclaimer out of the way, today we're going to talk about fear, and more specifically, a fear called agoraphobia. Now, agoraphobia is a big, long word, and it sounds like, what the heck is that? But I want to talk about it today because I think it's one of those things that may happen to us after losing our sight, and sometimes we don't even recognize it. So I want to go through a list of some symptoms that you might have that might be related to agoraphobia. Again, don't let this diagnose you. Let this just be something to click in your brain to talk to someone else about. So here are a few symptoms or a few cues with regard to agoraphobia. First of all, we have a fear of leaving home alone. That might be something you have an issue with. Fear of crowds or waiting in lines. Crowds or waiting in lines. Enclosed spaces like movie theaters, elevators, really tight stores, something like that. Open spaces like parking lots or big, large malls, something like that. And then using public transportation like the bus or a train, a fear of those kinds of situations. Now again, this is not to diagnose you, this is just to give you an idea, because agoraphobia is a fear of being around crowds, of being in open or closed spaces, being around people, because what it can lead to is a fear that you're unsafe and you might not be able to get to safety soon enough. And so it can cause panic attacks, it can cause breakdowns mentally and emotionally and things like that. And agoraphobia can lead to be in your house, in your apartment, in the place you're with all the time. And you never ever want to leave, especially by yourself. Maybe with a companion, but definitely not alone. Now, some people face this and they will go out and maybe slowly try to incorporate back into normal situations, but this can arise from a lot of different problems. Sight loss is just one of those things. And so that's what we're talking about today. You know, I've talked about it on the channel before, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast, but there have been times where there have been large crowds and I'm just unsure about going into that crowd, especially when I have the dog, because there might be a large crowd that's jam-packed together and it's hard to maneuver around with the dog because, you know, he doesn't know what these people are doing and they don't know what the dog's doing usually. So the problem is this crowd gets me a bit anxious and I'm just not ready for that. And so I can say, you know what? I don't want to do that. You know, I'm a social person. I love being around people, but if it's a certain situation, it's just not for me. Now, is that agoraphobia? Well, maybe not. And I don't want to make you diagnose yourself with agoraphobia. It's something to think about because you're going to have to treat it in certain ways. Fear of being around people might mean that you're an introvert. I mean, I know some introverts who just don't want to be around people. It's just not their thing, and that's okay. Doesn't necessarily mean you're afraid of people. Doesn't mean you're afraid of the situation. It means that that's just not your thing. And so when it starts to creep up on you and fear becomes bigger and bigger, and you feel like you're having a panic attack, you feel like if you don't get out of the situation, you're going to break down, something bad is happening, that's when it can lead to things like agoraphobia. So I wanted to make this video to let you know that that's a real thing. Absolutely. If you're fearing of going outside, if you have a fear of being around people, being in an open or crowded space, whatever it is, that's a real thing. And that's a real thing that people deal with. And you might be dealing with that. Again, please talk to somebody in your life that is a professional, your doctor, your mental health professional, somebody like that, so that you can walk through some of those symptoms and see, is this gotten to a place of agoraphobia? Because you might have some fear of going out into a crowd a couple of times, but if it lasts a really long time, if you're in your house for 6 months on end, that's when it gets really temperamental and you really need to talk to someone. So again, today we're talking about a fear of crowds, of being around people that you are unfamiliar with, a big open space, a closed space, something like that. If that's what you feel like, please know that you're not alone, and it's not surprising after losing your sight. So if you're dealing with any of those things, please seek out somebody in your life, a professional, a doctor, somebody like that who can help you work through these symptoms. And remember, and tell yourself this, that you are not alone, and it is and can get better each and every day. So my question for you today is this: have you dealt with any of these symptoms, like being afraid of crowds, open spaces, or closed spaces, being afraid of going outside of your house? If so, I would love to hear your story. Maybe you have ways of dealing with it. Maybe you're currently in the situation and you're finding ways of dealing with it. Maybe you're still struggling with this fear and you just want to share it out with somebody else, because that will be beneficial to you. Whatever it is, I would love to hear about it, and I know others would as well, so let me know in the comments below. Hey, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it out with somebody that you know. And if you're new around here, well, welcome. My name is Derek, and I help people just like you to discover life after sight loss. Here on the channel, we do life advice, product reviews, and discussions about mental health just like this one. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you don't miss another single video. And remember that sight loss isn't the end, it's just the beginning. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Derek, and I'll see you in the next one.